Anyways, we're back. If you're following along, we're on page 107. We are reading Events and Encounters. I'm very excited. So let's get started. I'll start with reading. Agatha, the usual format is I read until one of you stops me.
Oh.
Or I stop myself. And then we just go. It's just a free-flowing conversation.
Actually, before we start, Agatha, yes. I really want to get your thoughts on this. So every time we do a stream, to help kind of guide us through the reading and what have you, we focus on three stereotypes, three like critical ideas to help guide our criticism and what have you. Okay. Basically, we focus on how this particular piece of media portrays Asians as, of three, violent, savage, uncivilized, and in need of being saved, and the object of fetishization or exotification. And
sorry, that was more than 3 words.
They're like three broad statements.
Okay, yes. What are the categories?
So I'm super happy you brought that up because I've been struggling with this because I feel like, I've been expanding it to more than 3 things. I tried making it 3 because 3 is like really marketable, very like it's good for our brand.
I get it. The golden triangle. Okay.
The golden triangle. But
so one of them is violent.
Yep.
Yeah. One of them is
savage.
No. Violent and savage are one.
Okay.
And I thought violent and savage are one. One of them is Asians are objects of fetishization. Yeah. And the other is that Asians are fanatical.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
So we are in opposition to the beliefs of the West. In this book, it starts off just by saying this book basically represents the other half of the world. That's what this book basically says. So for context, Agatha, this is like one of the first Asian supplements to come to D&D. Right. And based on the tweet that I put out from our account this morning, people basically...
I'm taking notes.
That's okay.
I'm paying attention, but I'm taking notes.
People basically treat this book as, the Bible on how to do Asian cultures in D&D.
Right.
There have been, there have been multiple adventures, like adventure modules to come out of this book. There was a 3rd edition version of this book, which you accidentally saw.
Very colorful.
And if you just search
the colors very much.
And honestly, if you just search Oriental on DM's Guild, or if you search Oriental on Drive-Thru RPG, you will find a buttload of supplements for 5th edition D&D. Some of which we've talked about at length on our socials or on the show. But let's get started because we only have a certain amount of time. Again, we're on page 107, Events and Encounters. I'm going to get this started. If there's anything that you want to talk about, let me know and I'll stop. Or I might just stop and just start like balling my fists in anger. So we'll see.
You mean crying, right?
I'll cry. I'll cry when the time comes.
Cry with your fists.
I just like ball my fists so hard I just start sweating, and those are tears.
That's not hard in this weather.
No. So here we go. The world of Kara-Tur is rich and varied, filled with wondrous palaces, decaying shrines, and stout castles. Why stout? Okay, I'm gonna like. I say why stout castles because this game draws predominantly from Chinese and Japanese culture for your context, Agatha. And in China, like architecture is very much geared towards the horizontal rather than the vertical, as what stout implies. Although Japanese castles are fairly vertical. Just want to throw that out there. It is a land where many different things can and do happen. From the exotic to the mundane. This is your reaction is valid. They basically said this is a land where things happen. They literally said things can and do happen. It's the stupidest thing anybody's ever written. It is also a world of change. People die, children are born, earthquakes shatter villages, New homes are built, nations conquer their neighbors, rebellions are crushed. With each event, the face and history of Kara-Tur changes. These events and the changes they bring are an important part of the daily life of characters in Kara-Tur. That was the biggest waste of space. That's the biggest waste of space ever.
Wait, people can die? Children are born?
This
is me dunking.
You know what this is, though? This is their attempt to say, hey, the East is just like the West. Things happen. People die. Children are born. Like, they're trying to draw their reader into the book and show them that this is familiar.
Yeah, and I kind of get the tone. The tone is like it's a bit rhythmic, so it's like telling a myth. Like a lot of like myth tellings are kind of like this. So
yeah.
I also haven't read any other parts of this book, so
it's
maybe
it's very poorly written.
Welcome to your first 5 sentences. Yeah, there you go.
It's very poorly written. So one of the things we've learned about events and encounters is that they happen. Events happen, encounters happen, things happen. That's a shirt. Some events are grand in scope, sweeping across entire provinces or empires. Such events seldom involve the player characters directly. The power and force of a great earthquake is more than can be contained by a handful of player characters, although they could certainly try and under special circumstances may even succeed. However, such an event cannot be ignored. Crumbled buildings and shifted riverbeds, dyslexia, will affect the characters in what they know and possibly what they own. That's stupid. Such grand...
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of when whenever I wrote essays, and I wrote a lot of essays because I did English Lit in university, and I'm really bad at writing essays.
Just flexing on us.
No, and then I always start with saying something that the prof always comments on it, and it's like, yes, we know.
Oh,
it's
that's
like
so savage. Yes. I love it.
Do you want to go ahead? No, Agatha, go ahead.
Like a lot of essays, like you're just like, sometimes people lie, sometimes they don't. You know, like things like that. Like when you don't know what to write when you're starting an essay, this is what that really reminds
When I was
me
in grad school, I marked a ton of essays. And I actually had a whole unit where, like, very topical, we actually talked to our students about, like, race and the social construct that is race. And I would receive essays that do very much that thing. They're like, sometimes there are lies and sometimes there is truth. Sometimes there is in between. And sometimes essays are so bad that all you can do is write, I've done this. And there are students out there who probably hate me for this. And I wrote, this essay effectively used sentences. And that's all I could say. It's the only good I could say about an essay. And that's what I could say about this book. This book effectively uses the letters of the alphabet.
Effectively.
Effectively.
So do you guys ever like skip ahead, or
yes, we do. We skip ahead. We skip ahead when things are we skip ahead on things that are mechanical. So like anything that involves like, oh, this in dice rolls and bonuses, we just skip because we're just in it for the cultural content.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
Anyways, such grand events are rare but create profound shockwaves when they occur. Major events happen only once a year at most. Okay. Of more concern to the player characters are events that happen infrequently. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, please continue.
Okay. They could have just wrote things happen in Fantasy Asia. Here's how to do it.
Sometimes there are big things that happen. Sometimes
there are small things. Sometimes your characters can help. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes they lose their magic items.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you come across a river. Sometimes a forest. Asia.
Can somebody clip that?
Oh my god.
Oh god. So this is the part of the book where it's not racist, it's just poorly written. Okay.
It's a big mood. Having gone through one paragraph, Agatha's like, can we skip a little bit?
Can we just skip
maybe?
because it's all the same thing? Sorry.
Do you need a break?
No, I'm just trying not to laugh. On the road and at home, many events occur daily. Often.
Bye.
This might be what makes me cry. Often, these are insignificant and trivial. Sometimes they provide the characters with information, ideas, help, or clues. More often than not, they lead to action and adventure. A bandit party descends on the player characters as they camp, and a sharp skirmish ensues. The man-eating tiger, prowls the... also Agatha, another thing to bring up. Sorry, complete tone shift. Sorry. They almost exclusively use, like, everything is gendered as like he, him in this book. Except for when they talk about how men could have multiple wives and the wives fight amongst each other for honor and prestige. Also, there's rules for honor in this game. There are ways that you could get honor or game the system for honor by acquiring property or things like that.
I mean, I'm not surprised about the gender thing because like it came out at a specific time. So everything written at the time and even later was like that. So that's expected.
Okay. Where was I? Oh, yes. Such events are checked for daily, but perhaps several times a day in particularly dangerous areas. So, like, people in Asia are just looking for, like, tigers and bandits, apparently, is what they just said.
Sometimes when you run a D&D game, there are adventures.
Okay. So the shirt is sometimes there's adventures.
Oriental Adventures.
Finally, there are places where player characters are involved in time-consuming and thorough investigation. In these places, several things may happen to the player characters in the course of an hour. That's so specific. Sneaking through a ninja village or poking around the ruins of a haunted temple are particularly dangerous activities. Things happen in a much quicker pace. In such situations, encounter checks are made. Okay, this is all mechanical.
So okay, Daniel, as someone who has marked a lot of essays before, this is the what is like the title sentence? Is that what it's called?
This is your this is basically they're trying to.
This is actually the thesis statement. This is the actual thesis statement.
Well, this whole paragraph was a thesis.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 paragraphs down, we get the actual thesis statement.
That's our hamburger. That's our hamburger. No, that's basically in Asia things happen, and that's what they said in 5 paragraphs. Fuck.
It's true.
Okay. Skip that next paragraph. The encounter system in Oriental Adventures combines events of a grand scale with those of everyday occurrence. Because, of these events, the DM should determine the major or secondary events to start. God. Okay. Oh, well, you know what's interesting though? They do say he can prepare new campaign materials in anticipation of the event, preparing modified maps for a major earthquake, minimizing the amount of delay, and winging it that would occur. This is so AD&D. This is very much that. This is not your story, and we've encountered that throughout this book. This is how you can mess with your players. This is how you can control the narrative. This is how you can make sure that, this Asian story is under your control and not the players.
You'll see that in the very last sentence of this paragraph.
Finally, determining the events in advance allows DMs to appear omniscient. Fate, divination, and other spells can be answered with certain degree of confidence. Great. Okay, let's go to the calendar. In different times, one of the great emperors of Shoulung, this is supposed to be China, so Kara-Tur is like the eastern realms, and Shoulung is basically China. devised a calendar to fix the occurrence of regular holidays and festivals. This calendar has been highly successful and is commonly used throughout all civilized lands of Kara-Tur. Let's just think about that. They basically said, this is the equivalent of people saying, hey, China just put all their holidays on a calendar. Let's adopt all their holidays and put them on our calendar as well, because all Asians are the same.
Mm. It's also, it just has an interesting layer of like, just the word civilized is like, this is a very Chinese centric way of thinking about things that I find kind of fascinating as well.
Yeah.
Huh.
Listed below are the months of the calendar and some of the special holidays and festivals of the various lands of Kara-Tur. The first of the year falls sometime in modern day February or March. Why does that matter?
Because it's like Lunar New Year.
So here's our months, and they're all Chinese, but all with the Romanized writing.
I'm reading it and I don't understand.
So basically, they're saying, oh, it starts on modern day February or March because that's when Chinese New Year happens. Therefore, all Asian countries follow Chinese New Year, like that.
Well, all civilized.
Yeah. Well, this is we brought that up when we had, Ben Mahar and BJ on, when we talked about how Southeast Asia is portrayed in TTRPGs and how it, is very much excluded from a lot of this content because it's seen as like a more savage Asia, which is like 100% wrong. Shout out to
and this
Islands of Sihanoukville.
Yeah, and this has a lot to do, I think, with like the Vietnam War as well and all of that propaganda that came out of that.
100.
Yeah. You mentioned like the civilized and how like it rubs the wrong way. And for me, the context, having been 107 pages already into this, is that my general feel of this is that Asia, Pan-Asia, is split into two pieces. You have people who are civilized, so they have like streets, roads, and they basically like adhere to capitalism. They are cruel, and everyone else who's in part of like cities and towns, what have you, they're savage. So there's no like positivity around it. You're either cruel or you're savage.
You know what's interesting?
I see.
So if you go to yearly and monthly events, speaking of that cruel and savage, they have like yearly events. And everything that happens annually in Asia is almost terrible. So you have birth, which is not terrible. And you have marriage, new religion, and visitation, which I'm assuming that means some sort of, maybe the gods come down. But like for the most part, these things are all terrible. Like they're basically trying to paint this picture of Asia as a very volatile place, as a place where like, hey, you know what? Europe is great, right? Fantasy Europe is cool. Things, if evil happens, it's because of an evil person. And they're usually not like the heroes. But in Asia, there are also villainous people, but the literal landscape is trying to kill you. They're trying to make it sound dangerous.
Or it's a very classic like man versus wild kind of trope that exists in a lot of like adventure fiction that came out when sailing became a big thing in the West. Right, like a lot of those kind of stories, it's about like there's like the Solomon's Temple and like a lot of those kind of things. It's like the wilds of the Orient as like its own monster, and like Heart of Darkness is kind of that as well, right? You're right. Yeah, I'm seeing it. Earthquake, major. Famine, fire, major.
I have to admit, when I came into this section, I was actually really excited because I think random events like this is actually the best use of like a table for adventures, where it's like, wow, like what a cool prompt. Like if you told me like suddenly like this poor village is under siege by excessive taxes, that's a really cool prompt for me as a game master to be like, oh yeah, let's like talk about taxes and like the implications of that and like how it affects people. I have a lot of storylines with that. But after reading the whole thing, it's like, wow, it sucks to be in Kara-Tur / Pan-Asia.
Yeah, because tsunamis happen once a year and volcanoes happen once a year and wars happen once a year.
Yeah, and it really, from a game master perspective, just like cuts down on the possibilities of like a cool event happening. Like, what a cool event if suddenly the Lord is like, "Hey, everyone, I've been taxing you quite heavily. I'm going to relieve your taxes for the next like season, and I want you to just celebrate like, I don't know, happiness or wellness or something like that,
or celebrate the Feast of Lanterns." This is in the first month of the year. No, I'm sorry, I'm just looking.
Okay.
Somebody in the chat pointed out that they think it's pretty funny that new religion only occurs if you roll a 69.
It's true. Can confirm.
All right. Yeah, I'm super mature.
Okay. Oh, holy tables. Okay, this is just... they talk about Kozakura, which is supposed to be Japan. Yearly events are normally figured out only for the campaign area. Thus, if the player characters are on the island of Kozakura, the yearly event is determined for Kozakura only. Okay. So, So these are yearly events. What?
Wow, these are pretty cool though. Like, I will say, like you said, Steve, like, that's a pretty cool idea to be like the Suddenly Floods or whatever, and just have it in your back pocket to kind of add interest to your campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is interesting. Okay, that table kind of talks about like, oh, hey, look at this. Natural disaster. You can roll injustice. Horrendous monster. Excess taxes. We've talked about, you mentioned that, Steve.
Maiden of Virtue.
Maiden of Virtue.
Ooh, haunting. Yeah, what is Maiden of Virtue? What does that mean?
I have zero clue.
I have zero clue. It has not come up, and we've read this book in so much detail, and that's never come up. So bandit activity is under natural disaster, even though that should go under other incident. But they just put death and birth. Honestly, I would have replaced birth with like maybe some sort of like prophesized birth or something more interesting than birth.
Oh, they explain Maiden of Virtue later.
You read ahead. Oh, they do. Okay, cool. We're gonna get that. I think we could skip the rest of this page because it mostly talks about examples.
Yeah, they go into explanation of yearly events.
Okay, so let's go through those. Ambassador arrives from 50% or is sent to 50% another land. The ambassador remains for 3d10 months. Ambassadors are sent for a variety of reasons: to prevent war, form a military alliance, arrange a marriage, pay tribute, promote trade, or gain culture. What is this, Civ?
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's just Civ. Their arrival is always a major event for those of the court. That's pretty standard. Assassination of a lord. High-ranking lord is assassinated. High-ranking lords include emperors, princes, chieftains, daimios, governors, prime ministers, and ministers of states. That's an odd choice. It's very specific.
Yeah, daimios.
Yeah, it's very specific.
Just a specific chunk of time in Japanese history.
Yeah, I know.
Interesting.
If the player characters are vassals of one slain or had dealings with that NPC, they may fall under suspicion. See, that's interesting. I like that.
That is fun.
That's cool. But you don't have to roll for that to happen. You could be like, huh, a lord is assassinated. Maybe it's the lord that the players have pledged fealty to.
Yeah.
They are automatically suspected if they are known enemies of the one assassinated. There is a 30% chance the assassin is taken alive and a 1% chance he accuses the player characters. I don't know why they systematize this.
I have a question.
Yes.
For the class. What when it says like 30% chance that this happens, like who's supposed to calculate that?
The GM.
Like so the GM would be like rolling a die?
Yeah, so I had a conversation about this outside of the stream where I'm like, there's a lot of mechanics where it's like, hey, this spell does 2 to 7 damage. And like the text says 2 to 7, and the GM is implied to just understand that it's a 1d6 plus 1.
Oh,
so like the design itself is, I'm gonna just, it's like a gate, right? It's like it's inaccessible unless you already know certain like unwritten mechanics of the game.
Oh, I see. And I see in the chat it says use a D100.
Yeah. So the game, without saying it, has just implied that like, hey, you should know 30% means roll a D100 and like sort it out. Which
you're supposed to be able to already know how to play D&D before starting this book.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I guess as a D&D supplement.
Yeah, I mean that's how they still kind of are, but I don't think they imply things as much in the current edition.
Even still, like it's a D&D supplement, but they rewrote a lot of spells and just like it's like in the core rule book, but they're rewritten here. So like they've tried to do both, and that's a game design problem. And it's just it's a problem. That's it.
Yo, this Assassination of Lord is seriously so cool. Daniel, can you do that in Dungeons and Dragons?
I was gonna say the Ambassador and the Assassination of Lord, both already. The idea of it is cool.
It's not like I already planned that, but sometimes you have to build up relationships between NPCs and PCs first.
30% chance.
30% chance that
if you kill the Empress, I'm gonna fucking.
That's totally not what I'm building up to.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Then Steve's character should be framed for it.
Oh, duh! That's what would happen.
Thanks. Cool.
Like the entire like Ning would be like basically accused of assassinating Zhou Xia, and then the entire party would be on the run, and then maybe Waleed, being a bandit, has to take leadership of the group, and Waleed's character then gets that cool sort of moment to develop, and maybe Waleed is like, hey, we should go back to my homeland because we'll be safe there. Go back to Daesh. But that's not what I have planned at all, because this is our story. Although Agatha came up with that idea, so then maybe that's going to be our story.
I can write it on a slip and then put it into that.
Put it into the bowl.
Assassination occurs.
We're traveling on the road. I pull it up and it just says Kiana's character gets killed. Drama for Steve.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but let's keep reading.
Okay. Birth. A high-ranking noble's family has given birth to a child, thereby ensuring the continuation of the line. This is a cause for celebration, both by the noble and those under him. The event is a happy one, and feasting and ceremonies last for several days. See, that's interesting.
Honestly, this is very cool too.
Bad. I will say, since we have quite a few people who are watching right now, if you're wondering who these characters are that we're talking about, Ning, Zhou Xia, Waleed, you can head to oneshotrpg.com or oneshotpodcast.com. Uh-oh. You can go to your favorite streaming platform for podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, and you can search Asians Represent, and you can find our actual play, Dungeons and Asians. There are 7 episodes out right now for you folks, and we're planning more. Anyways, after that.
Thanks, Producer Daniel.
No problem.
Are you still good? You need a break?
If you want to, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm gonna drink this boba.
Yeah, hydrate. Hydrate.
Sorry, what is it? What is it?
Suckle from the boba.
So what is the literal translation again, Agatha? Boba?
Literal translation of boba.
Yeah.
Yeah, it means chick with big boobs.
So this drink, Lady Boba, is Lady Chick with Big Boobs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Which I mean, I if I saw that in a store, I would 90% likely just buy it.
I bought a 6-pack of these. So I bought a 6-pack of these.
But like the thing is, that's exactly what it is. Oh my gosh. I feel like if Taiwanese people on average had like better English fluency, that would 100% be like a real tea shop, because this is what Taiwanese people like to do. They like to be very politically incorrect.
That can't be a shirt, can it?
I mean, I will buy a blank shirt and I will rate it on it, and like you can't stop me.
We'll do that for a con. Maybe we'll do that for a con, Steve. We'll just get shirts made for a con. We'll figure it out.
Is that right?
Maybe not.
Is that the right thing to do?
I will. I I will think about it.
We'll think about it. We'll
there's
debrief after.
there's something there about that. But moving on.
Moving on. Earthquake.
Yearly events. Are we earthquakes? We missed comet.
No, comet.
Oh, sorry, I skipped it because I was like, oh, it's a comet.
That's okay. A comet appears, which is I think really cool.
It's cool.
And it has mechanics for like reappearing, which is like
that's very
also
cool.
super cool. Like everyone likes that.
Yeah.
Death of a lord. A high-ranking noble dies either in battle, through misadventure, disease, or peacefully in bed. I like that a lot. The effects of succession are the same as those given for assassination, which is like, yeah.
That's cool. Maybe a lord in our game dies.
You're killing me here, man.
There are multiple
Honestly,
lords. They could be dukes.
All of the high level people are related to Ning in some
that's
way.
Totally true.
My heart.
I just
no.
That's
all right.
Earthquake is pretty standard.
Hmm.
What I like is that they basically say that the landscape should be reshaped by an earthquake. Then they talk about the fallout of earthquakes, like major fires or plague in an area. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Daniel, can I ask you a question about like your background and like the history that you know? Because my history knowledge primarily focuses on North America because of like my upbringing and things like that, where earthquakes don't really change the landscape all that much.
Earthquakes do, depending on where. I mean, the big ones in Chinese mythology are like floods.
I see. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Like I experienced an earthquake in Taiwan. I think it was in the year 2000 or 1999. Yeah, and it was 7.5 on the Richter scale. And it definitely, well, Taiwan also has like they have a lot of landslides for various reasons. So that definitely changed a lot of that as well. But not in a way like, I think like rivers were still in the same place, but like, yeah. So
I mean, people had a lot of. I was actually really cool. I was in where was I? It was a city in China. I've been to so many now. Anyways, we were in a city in China. I think it was Hangzhou, and we were just like walking on the street, and we randomly found this underground museum. And it was just this random underground museum with that had clearly had a buttload of like federal funding, and it was a museum dedicated to a preserved dam. They found like an underwater, like an underground water dam that had been underneath the city, and it was on the history of the dam and how the people of the area actually redirected rivers with it, or attempted to. It was pretty cool.
These are all cool things. I think if you were looking to like run a campaign that is not like Eurocentric or white-centric or like America's, these types of things are like really, really cool. And they're not even like limited to just like an Asian type campaign either. They're super cool generally.
Honestly, like famine here is pretty interesting because they talk about how long it lasts and how it affects the price of food. Which I think is really
feel
cool.
like if you just want to run like a low fantasy game, this is really cool.
Shit. Okay, there's one thing here. Marauder. So in famine, they write marauder groups appear, scavenging for food of any type: cattle, sheep, dogs, horses, etc. They had to just put that in there.
Of course. That's shitty.
That's shitty. Sorry, I just.
I'm glad you caught that.
Yeah, it's like and I know there are going to be people who are watching the YouTube video who are going to say, "Oh, well, you know, if there was no food, of course you would eat a dog." But the implications of putting that in a book about Asia, there are layers and there are nuances to this.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm just putting that out there to any of the people who are going to reply to this.
This is why you hire sensitivity writers, because sensitivity reader. Sensitivity reader would see that and be like, "Hey, you might not be aware, but there's like baggage associated with like what you've implied here."
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Fire, flood. Most of this is pretty standard. You know, all of this is honestly,
this is all cool stuff.
This is all cool stuff that you could put in any D&D book. Incursian Major, a major migration of creatures enters the kingdom from outside its borders. I mean, one of the things I've noticed in D&D is that they always use creatures to represent the other. Because like creatures implies like to a non-gamer, this would imply monsters.
Yeah, isn't that what that means?
Like in the hit movie The Great Wall. I'm kidding.
Don't kill.
I'm kidding.
Please.
Although this migration is not war, it is not necessarily peaceful. No, they mean by peoples, like cultures.
Really?
Yeah, because if you
creatures means people?
The creatures may be humans, humanoids, or monsters. The migration might be a barbarian horde driven from its homeland, or a race of hobgoblins expanding its territory. The newly arrived creatures attempt to live life as they always have, retaining their old habits and speaking their own language. If given to violence or raiding, they continue these practices. The creatures remain until driven out. If allowed to stay, they will, over the years, adopt some of the habits and practices of the new land until they are considered a regular part of life. This migration occurs over a period of 1d 12 months.
Wait, Daniel, so this is normal in like D&D books? That
what? To say creatures?
Would be called creatures? Yeah.
It's pretty standard. Pretty standard.
I see.
Okay, marriage. I mean, this is pretty okay, but the actual marriage section in the book is terrible.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's real bad. New religion. There is a 75% chance that this causes hostility and feuding between it and the established religions, leading to skirmishing, temple burning, and battles between warrior and monks. I mean, everything up until warrior monks.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally.
Everything up until warrior monks was like, hey, that totally makes sense. And then they put
I was
warrior
like,
monks.
true, true.
God. Yeah, they had to make it Asian somehow. If so, there is a 60% chance the ruler comes out in favor of the new religion. If so, there's a 40% chance the ruler bans other religions, burning their temples, forbidding their practices, and killing or banishing their clerics.
This is the cruelty that I'm talking about. It's like, wow. There's no, like...
Also, it's just like a ton of rolling. It's like, okay, we're going to roll to see what event happens. Oh, new religion. Okay, let's roll. Let's see if it causes hostility. Oh, great. Let's see if a new ruler comes out in favor of it. Oh, great. God.
It's kind of cool, though. I don't know. I also haven't read most of this.
Do you want to roll that many dice, or do you just want to be like, okay, new religion, what do we think?
No. I mean,
But also the use of cleric. They also use the use of cleric.
Go ahead, Agatha.
Go ahead, though.
Oh, no, I was saying, if I were to just pick up this section of this book, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do any of the dice rolling because I don't personally care about that. But I would be like, oh, yeah, this is very cool. Like,
yeah,
maybe I'll do that. Religious persecution.
For my D&D game, I'm already thinking like, hey, maybe like a tension could be like a new religion cropping up, because like new religions come and go, and they almost always cause like tension. And like our players can resolve that tension. They can like play within it and things like that. This is all really, really cool stuff. The dice rolling is garbo, but like the idea, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's like we're already doing it in Dungeons and Asians.
Kinda, yeah.
It's already happening. Okay. Plague. Again, interesting. It could happen anywhere. Except they talk in the first sentence. They talk about how the clerics can't keep it in check with their spells. Like they don't even stick with the actual classes that they brought up in this book. It's just lazy. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody watching this video later basically said, "Oh, they just took that from an Unearthed Arcana, or they took this from another book and copied and pasted it into here." So, yeah, political plot. Again, this is all pretty bland. Like, it's interesting. It's kind of cool to, have a little bit of information on these things, but it's kind of boring. And if I was reading this and somebody just sold this as as a manual, and they said, okay, here we go. And if this was the 80s and they just call it Events and Encounters in the Orient, I'd read this and I'd be like, there's nothing Asian about this.
That's also interesting, eh? Where it's like,
because I mean, page 109, there was
line.
nothing Asian, because I mean, these are things that people experience on a global scale around the world. It's like people
things happen.
Things happen. That's the thing. Things happen. Like people get killed. People are born. People, marry, right, for gain or for love. There are new religions. Plagues happen. I mean, we're in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm just excited for us to get to Maiden of Virtue. So.
Yeah, I'm losing appetite to like go through these line by line.
I am too. That's why I'm kind of like, let's move on.
Because at best, they're cool ideas. At worst, there's just too much.
Okay, let's
this
skip
could
to
be
page
condensed down to like roll a d10, and that's the event that happens, and just like give it the title. I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. Let's skip to page 111 then.
Okay.
And let's just go straight to Maiden of Virtue. Would any of you like to read it?
Our esteemed guest, which I actually don't know what's here, but
Agatha, do you want to read Maiden of Virtue then?
Sure, I can do it. Maiden of Virtue, a young woman of exceptional grace, wit, and beauty has appeared in the region. She may be the daughter of a powerful noble, 50%. A maiden of mysterious and magical origin, 30%. An exiled princess, 10%. Or simply a commoner, 10%. Oh my God.
It's like one of those. It's like one of those K dramas where it's like, I rolled 10%. She's really a commoner, but I secretly rolled another D100 behind my screen, and she's actually an exiled princess when she changes her outfit.
She takes off her glasses.
Yeah.
Oh man, she charms and impresses all who meet her. She has an exceptionally fine writing style that reveals her pure nature. She is skilled in the playing of musical instruments and other artistic accomplishments. She is properly respectful of her parents. If she has any.
Oh my God.
If the maiden is any but the daughter of a powerful noble, she can be courted and possibly wed without the full formalities.
Gross.
Ew. That's disgusting.
Wow. However, being aware, but not in vain, of her own qualities, not vain.
She's a maiden of virtue after all.
Of course. Oh my gosh. She does not accept just anyone. Her accepted suitor must possess exceptional qualities of his own. Mm-hmm. He must also be a model of virtue and likewise skilled in the arts. Oh, wow. He must possess heroic qualities. To even attract her notice, he must produce some artistic item of quality. A poem, a painting, exceptional handwriting, etc.
At least they didn't write calligraphy.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the next thing, Agatha, comeliness. Comeliness is a stat that they put in. It's like a 7th stat, and it represents how good looking you are, essentially. To put it very simply.
He must also have a comeliness and charisma of at least 13 each. Maidens of mysterious origin or princesses may set impossible tasks as a condition for any successful suitor. What? The social rank of the character is not as important as the qualities mentioned above. The handling of the courtship, the degree of attraction between the two, and the final result of any courtship are left in the capable hands of the DM.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you like to share some thoughts or feelings?
Agatha, go ahead. I'm just going to finish up my dinner while we hear Agatha dunk on this.
I'm sorry.
What is this?
This is Oriental Adventures.
Yeah, that was an adventure.
This is the book that basically portrayed samurai as humans with 8 arms because they can hold so many weapons.
Yeah.
And ride horses and shoot bows and all that stuff.
Wait, are you serious?
No, just the description. It was so poorly written. It was basically like if you visualized it, it's literally a person with 8 arms.
I mean, what?
Well, it was...
maybe I'll get to take a crack at this.
Go for it.
Please.
If as we were going through it, I was thinking, and I know the word incel might end up being like a slur later on, but I'm going to describe this as, it feels like this is just like something an incel would write. Just like this like weird like exotification, this like untouchable nature. It's like, it makes me feel really gross having read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're basically trying to paint the picture of an Asian woman who loves her parents and stays at home and learns
if she has any,
and learns the arts. And she is virtuous. She is virginal. She is, a prize for the players if they work hard and have the right stats. And it's kind of gross.
Yeah, it's a prize, definitely. So other things that can happen, like a major battle or whatever, notorious criminal, are potential adventures. And then the maiden of virtue is a potential prize. And this is basically just like any love interest. Like, I feel like the description of this person is kind of like historically accurate in terms of expectations, depending on the dynasty.
Yeah.
Like, for like, I'm thinking of like Chinese Asian women, and I think maybe like Japanese as well, again, depending. But it's still, I think the part that is weird to me is the part where it says like that, like it goes into a lot of detail about how she can be courted.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, because one of the players is going to be like, okay, I want to get with her. How do I do it? And then DM's like, okay, let me look at the rules. Okay, so the first thing you have to do you have the requisite comeliness and charisma scores?
I mean, like roll to seduce, that meme, like it comes from somewhere, right?
And this is, instead of roll to seduce, it's side quest to seduce.
Yeah, because you gotta write a poem or paint something. And also, the social rank of the character is not as important as the qualities mentioned above. There's something about that really weirds me out, because it actually is not...
Because it's not up to the role play.
And, well, also, it doesn't agree with a lot of the other things that have been written in terms of these events. So a lot of these, they're actually pretty realistic, right? Like, in terms of like political machinations, like the political marriages or the birth or death, assassination of lords. Like, they're all like things that are like, yeah, people care about rank, people care about politics, people care about reputation and things like that. That's implied by the things that were written just previous to this. For example, like the marriage is, it literally says a noble person gets married, or like birth is a noble person, like a noble family has like a new birth or whatever, right? And then people celebrate. So all of these things are kind of emphasized upon. But then when it comes to the maiden of virtue, it's like, okay, but all of that, let's just sweep that aside, because we need to give the players like a hero moment that is just about like some kind of sexual prowess that disregards all of the politics that would have to be inherent in it, and it just feels grosser. It feels grosser.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't have any more words. I'm ready to move on.
I can't wait till we get into another book.
We're almost done this.
We're almost done this.
We have 30
pages, so in 3 years.
Thanks, Daniel.
No worries. No, I think we're gonna figure out what we're gonna do next. Maybe whoever donates the most on our charity stream gets to pick the next book.
So okay, the next thing that I can keep reading, and then
yeah, go for it.
Or if y'all want to choose, Maneater, a leopard, tiger, wolf.
Yeah.
Or a similar creature has acquired a taste for human flesh and is raiding the local villages, carrying off women, children, and farmers in their fields. The animal strikes once or twice a week, killing its prey and dragging it off into the woods. The villagers are paralyzed by fear, unwilling to venture outside alone or after dark. They petition the government, a powerful NPC, or the player characters for aid. The man-eater remains active until captured or killed.
So one of the things that this brings up for me is something we talked about. Here, I'm going to move my camera. Is that something that we talked about in a previous section of the book? And it's how the entire peasantry, the entire civilian population of Kara-Tur is basically unarmed. So in Agatha, in a previous section, they talked about how weapons were taken away from the peasants, so they have no weapons, they have no means of defending themselves. Yet, however, all commoners are proficient in yaijutsu, which is the art of drawing swords and sailing. It's some stupid shit. But here, this is another section of the book where, when placed in the context, everything that is very, very Asian, or they've tried to make it Asian in this book, just brings out these more negative stereotypes. So in Maneater, they've basically said, okay, these things could happen anywhere, right? You know, like big alpha animals could come in and, you know, carry off, they said, women, children, and farmers, saying that farmers are only men, I would assume is what they're trying to say here. But they're saying here that the people who are affected by this have no agency and can't do anything and are too afraid to do anything. And so they're further portraying this population of fantasy Asians as powerless.
Yeah.
That's what I don't like.
Yeah. It is kind of... This is something, I don't know if y'all have discussed this before already, but like... I mean, a lot of these like D&D type games are about going in and being the savior, though, of like locals, right? So this is in a way pretty similar. It's problematic, or it rubs the wrong way, because there's also a lot of media and media baggage where it's like the white savior comes to wherever else and like, you know, and solves all their problems for them because they're incapable of doing it themselves. But also, like, this is kind of what this game is. So what do y'all think about that?
I mean, yeah, that's inherent to D&D. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, my personal take on this is that I feel like Gygax was really going off those two lions in Africa. Like the British were there, like taking land and like colonializing, like they were doing a colonialism. And the Savo, I think they're called the Savo man-eaters. They were two lions, or basically just like eating their workers, like killing and eating them, or just killing them, really. But it oftentimes, like when that story is told, it ignores the fact that they were doing colonialism and like they were like really encroaching on territory and things like that. And it becomes the story of like man versus wild, of man basically just like putting up traps, poisoning food, doing all these terrible things, the lion outsmarting them, and then eventually man wins, or however that story ends. I actually don't fully remember, but I feel like they're trying to recapture that idea of like, oh yeah, what a heroic thing to just like kill lions. And in my perspective, that particular story doesn't speak to like owning nature. It speaks to how futile it is to just like try to do these colonialisms and not understand kind of the reactionary nature of animals and like nature and like where the environment is that you happen to be doing a colonialism in.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Accidentally was like.
No. I mean, like it's good to bring that up. I mean, one of the things that we've seen throughout our read through of this book has been how seemingly innocuous additions to the book have different effects on an Asian audience or perceptions of Asians. That's a big one. It's like the biggest one so far was comeliness, right? When we were talking about comeliness and how, you know what, let's just go back to that. We're on page 111 right now. Let's just go back to comeliness. I'll let you know what page it's on when I find it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's on page 10, Agatha. So
okay.
So I want to see what you think of this as I read it, because this is something that was in Unearthed Arcana.
Okay.
So comeliness reflects physical attractiveness, social grace, and personal beauty. It affects initial reactions to the character and may affect the wills and actions of others. While charisma deals specifically with leadership, and loyalty, comeliness deals with attractiveness and first impressions. So certain D&D races have bonuses or penalties to comeliness, because in 5th edition D&D, there were only bonuses, but in previous editions, you would get either a bonus and a penalty or something like that. Okay. But comeliness is basically, if you have high enough comeliness, you can get what you want from people. But what Steve and I talked about when we were talking about comeliness is how, like, hey, this is just a stat for beauty and what you could use beauty for. But when you talk about how it's very much described as something that is feminine beauty in this edition of D&D, and it feeds into these stereotypes of Asian men.
Yeah.
As feminine and how Asian men, even if you build this barbarian character, cannot be masculine. And so a lot of people were like, oh, hey, comeliness, that was in Unearthed Arcana. It's not racist because it was in another book. We're like, no. Comeliness, like, is very much a real word. It is not a made-up word, and is a thing that you put in D&D. But when you put it in a book about Asians and you don't think about, everything else that's in play here, you create something that's very, very offensive. And that's kind of what's happening here on page 111. And it's that, Asian people are powerless. Asian people are downtrodden by the authority. Or Asian people who, stay in line and do what their Lord says will be protected from harm.
Right.
I'm glad you brought up comeliness, because the next section is on marriage, and comeliness has a ton of homophobia, transphobia, and general queerphobia baked into it. Yeah. And hey, on brand, marriage is no better. Marriage, should one of the player's characters be currently courting a member of the opposite sex, his or her, this is one of the first places where they use his or her, by the way. Mm-hmm. His or her proposal of marriage is accepted unless the DM rules this does not happen for other reasons. If this is not the case, an important or influential person in the region either marries or completes the marriage arrangements for one of his children. They lost the her. If the player characters are known to the NPC, they are invited to attend the wedding. In any case, the wedding is cause for feasting and celebration.
Oh, I see.
Roll to see if you're going to propose is basically what happened, because this is an event. So if a character is courting a maiden of virtue, if they're currently on the side quest of courting a maiden of virtue and then the GM rolls marriage, then a marriage happens?
I guess so. Like, you would have to have rolled maiden of virtue first as an event, and then later on rolled marriage. Then, boom, you get the boba.
So, you go. Ooh. Whoa. What I wanted to focus on was like the queer phobia of this, of the unless the DM rules this does not happen for other reasons.
Yeah.
And what we've coded in the game is obviously the heteronormativity of it, but it's one thing to talk about historical homophobia in your setting, right? Like you can talk about that, and that is a valid thing to talk about in your games. But you cause harm when you do not actually make a statement of it, because when you don't make a statement about it and the harm that it causes, what you've done is you've supported the normativity. You've supported the status quo, which by virtue of just being as it is causes harm.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there are going to be those people who say like, oh, that's how it was in ancient China. That's how it was. But okay, gender is a lot more complex in the ancient world. Like a lot more complex. And we could, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do an episode and I'm going to find someone and we're going to talk about gender in Japan. We're going to talk about gender in ancient Japan, and we're just going to completely undermine any of the comments that people are going to make here and be like, oh, well, this is, I'm going to find someone and we're going to do an episode on that. I'm actually going to write that down right now. So if Steve, if you could take the lead, I'm going to do this.
A gender episode for Asian Represent, I think would be very, very valuable.
We definitely should.
To everyone. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on here. So just kind of reading through the titles here, we get back to more of like that's a cool idea. Notorious Criminal, cool idea. Yeah. You see that in literally every season of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's cool. Moving on. Mm-hmm. Plague.
Cool.
I have nothing to add to that other than use your safety tools. Decide if your players want to talk about plagues.
Yeah.
I will have to say that personally, all my games have decided that we won't focus on plagues. That's not at our table, which is super cool.
I played a game with my family, and it involved disease very recently. We played one of the intro adventures called Frozen Sick from the new Explorer's Guide to Wildmount book, which is like a super cool book, even if you're not into Critical Role. And we were playing through it, and one of the central parts of that adventure is that there are these blue vials, and they contain this dust that transmits this sickness, this curse that turns you to ice very slowly. Mm-hmm. And I ran it with my parents, and I asked them, I was like, hey, is this okay if we do this? And they were like, totally. And my mom basically was like, I use Lysol on everything in game. And we're like, okay, that's cool, that's cute. But then I actually ran it with another group, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take out the disease part of this, and I'm going to make it a curse instead. So if you folks are, buying new D&D books and you buy Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, just know that one of the adventures there is very much about disease. So I just wanted to bring that up. Now that you brought that up, Steve, I know that there are a lot of people in our chat who are, big fans of 5th edition D&D and might be looking for new pre-written adventures. So just throw that out there.
If only there was some kind of anthology out there that had maybe 10 one-shot adventures, all written and illustrated by Asian creators. If only such a thing existed.
UnbreakableRPG.com. Also, speaking of which, Steve, for our charity stream tomorrow, I have just been informed that an anonymous donor, and I mean this, an anonymous donor has actually donated 4 more copies of Unbreakable to our giveaway. So we will be giving away not 3, but 5 PDF copies of Unbreakable and 5 hardcover copies of Unbreakable tomorrow. So if you want a copy of Unbreakable, all you have to do for the PDF is join in our chat tomorrow. It starts at 1 p.m. EST and we go till 3 p.m. because I know another member of the Asian community is actually doing a stream as well. So we're going to raid that stream after. I figured out how to do it. And then anybody who donates at least $10 to our fundraiser through the donate button on our channel. So if you look below the video, if you're new to Twitch, if you hit that donate button, it will take you to a Streamlabs page. All the donations that we get from today's stream and tomorrow are going to go to Black Lives Matter Toronto. And if you want to get a copy of the Unbreakable hardcover, which is a beautiful book, Beautiful, beautiful book. All you need to do is donate at least $10, and you're gonna get it, and you're entered to win a chance. So let's throw that out there. Let's move on. Sorry, I just found a subject for another podcast episode. I just need to find a person. In Japan, a couple hundred years ago, there were actually Japanese teenage boys who they'd call wakashu, and they basically fit into a third gender in Japan, in ancient Japan. And you don't see that a lot in this at all. So we're going to try to do an episode on that. I have to find the right person. I know about this from an exhibition that the Royal Ontario Museum had years ago, and it was really cool. It was just all art prints about this. So really cool. We'll do that. I just have to find the right person to kind of lead us through this. But anyways, let's move on. We talked about marriage, troop movements, uprisings, pretty standard stuff. Vengeful Stranger. That's kind of interesting.
Which sounds cool. I think if I was a DC superhero, I might consider the moniker Vengeful Stranger. I think that sounds really cool.
Vengeful Stranger.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Mysterious NPC searching for a person, making discreet inquiries, seeks revenge for some past wrong, possibly a murder or insult.
That might be interesting to do since Amara is not. I don't think Amara is watching our live stream or watches the YouTube videos. It'd be very interesting to do for Waleed's character, because Waleed is from Daesh, which is another land, and maybe there is, a stranger who arrives in a town that the party has gone to, and they're like, "Oh, we've seen someone who looks just like you coming around." We could do that.
I think that's a great idea.
I think. Ooh, I don't know.
Just like a cutaway to the scene, and then cut back to whatever the party is still doing.
I'm gonna write that down. Okay. One of you want to take the lead while I write down this idea for our adventure?
Sure. After Vengeful Stranger, which has a weird line that says, should the stranger be hunting the player characters and they defeat him, this will be the cause for ancestral feud between the two families. Which is just I get it, but also based on kind of the trust this book has built on me, I read that and I can't help but be like, what do you mean by that? Right? Just being extra critical about it. But maybe that's me being fairly biased based on the harm and the harm this text has already caused me. Moving on, VIP visit is an important vessel, comes on a formal visit to visit the province. The purpose of the visit is left to the DM to decide. If he has arrived to investigate the misdeeds of local officials, they certainly try to eliminate him. Kind of more of that cruelty. However, in this case, he is traveling in disguise. Player characters may be hired to protect the VIP or do away with him. Otherwise, the visitor is marked by official banquets and feasts.
I feel like, excuse me, instead of cruelty, I have a strong vibe of corruption.
Wait, which one are we on? Sorry, I'm still writing down this plot
VIP
idea.
visit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not necessarily wrong, but it is interesting.
Yeah.
It's negative.
In a vacuum, this is oh, what a cool kind of idea. Maybe I can incorporate it in my game. Within context and based on 111 pages prior to it, I can't help but not trust it.
See, all of this, I'm so torn about this chapter because there are things that I'm like, oh, this is genuinely interesting, and as the viewers can see, I'm getting ideas of things we could do in our campaign, but also there are things that are just so terrible in this as well.
This might be the most positive chapter we've gone through.
Definitely.
Yeah, is it?
Definitely, because we're almost done the chapter.
Yeah. Daily events, I'm kind of skimming through it, and I'm not finding much more additional content here that's not generally just rolling and crunching and things like that.
Yeah.
We finally see bandits and how bandits are portrayed. So bandits, the player characters through accident or design, find a camp or outpost of a bandit force operating in the area. If there are bandits active in the area, the characters come across the outer edges of the bandit camp, and there are a bunch of them there, and then you fight and you might kill them. The bandit camp. The player characters have accidentally stumbled upon the bandit camp in the wilderness. The referee should create the camp according to the information in the master manual. So, like, kind of generic stuff.
Yeah. Not a lot of Oriental color. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I know.
Someone clipped that. Yeah, not a lot of Oriental color there.
Not a lot of, wow. At least you didn't say flavor.
Spicy.
Gosh. Yeah. Contest. Huh.
Yeah, Agatha, you want to read contest? I think this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, the player characters, if of noble station. Again, see, this is the whole thing. Like, it's going back to like ranks are important, and like, you know, like.
Well, yeah, because
politics
apparently Asia is highly socially stratified.
Except if there's a maiden of virtue, then it don't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, then
the player character, if of noble station, receive an invitation to a contest from a powerful lord. The contest is in one of the arts: poetry, painting, calligraphy, etc. that at least one of the player character has proficiency in. The time and place of the contest is already set. When held, the contest takes the form of a formal party. Each guest is supposed to compose a work on the spot that is then judged according to the quality of the work. Oh, snap. The appropriateness to the occasion, the imagery, and the sheer beauty. The winner of the contest receives a minor gift and gains honor. The contest can be missed if there is good reason. For example, leaving town at the order of one's lord, etc. If the player characters do not attend and do not have a good reason, they lose 2 points of honor. It is assumed that they are ashamed of their own skills.
Cool.
Yeah, honor is a real thing here. Oh my god. I looked ahead, and there's some things that are coded as very Asian.
I have questions about honor.
Do we want to go back to the honor chapter?
We have answers, I'm sorry to say.
Okay, let's go back to honor. Let's go back to honor.
What's on your mind, Agatha?
I'm going to find the page. You guys talk.
What is honor?
Honor is a pool of points that you can either like do actions within the game to gain points of honor or to lose them. And oftentimes the events that cause you to lose honor are outside of your control. Some prime examples of gaining honor would be to own property, to challenge someone to a duel and defeat them.
Agatha, go to page 36. There's a table.
To defeat an enemy. These are all things that would like gain you honor within AD&D Oriental Adventures. Things that might lose you honor are things like being accused of a crime, whether or not you actually committed it. And some other gross stuff. My mind is blanking on it because I clearly just did not.
So we got you gain honor for dying a heroic death. You can gain honor for fulfilling a family debt. You could lose honor by being taken prisoner, breaking an oath, being banished. You could also gain honor by acquiring property, but you don't gain as much honor for acquiring property as you do, say, saving the life of another or healing people. It's on page 36. It's like a really terrible table. But there's like a whole game mechanic behind it. If you get, I believe, when you reach 95 honor points, you are considered a great hero, suitable material for epic songs, likely folktales, and the like. So we spent that entire episode crafting terrible stories on how somebody would get to 95 honor and how they could possibly lose it. Also, honor is honor in this system is also very much viewed from the perspective of the nobility. So, for instance, treason.
Yeah.
You lose 30 honor.
Treason? You lose 30 honor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, but if you were
as opposed to your head.
No, but like,
okay,
but imagine like if you're because remember the GM is the arbiter of the entire story. If you if you say are a character and you choose to save somebody innocent, but at the expense of your political allegiance, you would lose honor for that, because that would be considered, the GM might consider that treason, even though you saved the life of another at a great risk. So you would actually only lose 25 honor, because you would lose 30 for treason, but gain 5 for saving the life of another at the risk of your own.
Wow, I hate this.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep. That's
agreed.
I hate this so much.
100%.
Like, it doesn't even understand. Like, two things that stood out to me. One is challenging someone to a duel and winning. That's very Western. That's such a Western idea.
Yeah. But also, like, certain classes start with a base honor, and then your race might lose you honor.
I hate this so much.
It's bad.
Like, it's so bad. And also, the thing about saving someone gains you honor, like, that's not how that works.
Well, this is the first paragraph of the honor section. Power, wealth, and position. All these mean nothing to a character of the Oriental world if he is without honor. Honor is a reflection of his character and the character of his family. It is a measure of his worth in the society, his dependability, his personal character, his trustworthiness, his decency, and more. The honor of a family affects the honor of a character, and vice versa. The honor, with honor comes respect, power, influence, and position. Without it, characters can expect disrespect, humiliation, and insults.
So sorry.
And I think there are people who are just joining us for the first time and have not seen us go over this section. Again, if you want to watch all of the old episodes, we're going to throw in, if Peter, can you throw in the link to our YouTube channel? Peter is our wonderful moderator. Can you throw in the link to our YouTube channel for everybody? Catch up, because some people are like, wait, martial arts? That was two-part. That was a two-part episode. I think it was 9 and 10. That was tough. That was real tough. But yeah, Agatha, this is the honor section. And then we later see it come into effect in the events and encounters.
I see. That makes a lot more sense now that I'm reading the context section, and like, whatever, you don't attend, you lose 2 points of honor.
It's stupid. It's like an unnecessary game currency.
Yeah, it's actually stupid. Because
it's really dumb.
Because this only matters to you if you are like a person of learning, like you're that kind of person, like you read, and you're trying to get a job that way, or
Yep. Well, it's just like, imagine here if you were like a new player and you were playing this at a convention and the GM was like, you lose 5 honor, and you're like, what the fuck? Why?
Even take it to like our Dungeons and Asians game. Like if Dong Fong was like invited to like a painting competition, we'd be like, oh, why? Like,
yeah,
what has happened up to this point that makes whoever sent the invitation be like, oh yeah, get that person in here.
I want the giant shrimp.
Yeah,
this painting competition.
And
then they hand Dongfang a ninja preferred weapon, and then Dongfang immediately is like, oh shit, I lose 5 honor. I'm not allowed to use ninja weapons.
Yeah.
Because Dongfang, I feel like, would be like a Kensai, although I think more like Ning at this point. But if you are a Kensai, you literally lose honor if you use a ninja preferred weapon.
So stupid. So fucking stupid.
It's really,
I feel like
it's really dumb. Or it's like if you overindulge in food or drink.
Again, this only matters to one very small percentage of any population.
Any population. That's like super key.
Yeah, it's dumb. Also, like, if you're a Kensai and you refuse a duel versus an NPC, you lose 5 honor. So mad. I've seen this. I know GMs who are like this. One of my somebody that I knew from high school was very much like this. He was just all about killing his parties. And he is the type of person who would do this. Basically, if you see somebody who's nearing that 95 honor, he would just start throwing duels at you to try to get you to refuse one because you're bored. And he'd be like, oh, you lose 5 honor. You're no longer going to be considered a great hero. But it's just treating honor. The thing about the honor section, and we said this at the previous episode when we did it, is that it treats honor like some sort of currency that all Asians can see.
Yeah.
Because I do think that there's a way of handling it, even mechanically, that could be very interesting if it was just changed to reputation, because I think reputation is what matters to a lot of these kind
population.
A lot of people, but like when people talk about honor, they're actually talking about reputation, and I think this is something that, like, if you grow up in like, for example, like my background, if you were to grow up in a Taiwanese culture or a Chinese culture and you talk about honor, what you're really talking about is reputation. So like, and that is the kind of thing that it varies depending on the context, because depending on your background. So it's not wrong to say that a lot of Asian people care about honor, but
to systematize it like this is...
But to systematize it in such a narrow sliver of the actual culture, but to apply it in such a general way so that it seems to be like pan-Asian is what's problematic about it. And that's what's so weird about it too. Because like historically also, like, most Asians did not write. Like they can't read or write. Like that's just normal, right? Like pretty much all of the world. So why is this so important? Anyway, like we can talk about samurai culture, I guess. And like how at the end of samurai culture, how they started developing an appreciation for the arts as a way of maintaining.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Jason in our chat, who's another Canadian TTRPG designer, Genesis of Legend, pointed us to Bushido, a game that apparently precedes Oriental Adventures. And there's actually a section in the PDF on page 2, and it's just the classic man. And that's what they do in character creation.
Please don't ask me to read this on stream. I don't
know if I want to read this on stream. It's only 80 pages.
I'm doing a time check here, and we like to time box these kind of things. I feel like we finished this one page. The next page is encounters by terrain type, which we can probably skip, and that concludes the chapter. We move on to monsters.
Yeah, and we're gonna bring in some of the RPGC folks on for the monsters chapter.
That's gonna be really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I cannot wait to hear. Like, anyways.
Agatha, you could also, if you want to join us for the monsters section, like please join us while we go through all these monsters. I'm excited. That being said, we've got about 20 minutes left. I think that it's very important for us to talk about what's good in TTRPGs, what we recommend, because I don't think we do that enough. Like obviously, like Steve and I, we talk about Unbreakable all the time, but we need to talk about other projects that are good, or other things that we are trying to do to create good in the TTRPG industry. Obviously, like for me, one of the things that's been really interesting and really nice to see is the fresh discussion about sensitivity readers. Because we were constantly saying this book could have used a sensitivity reader. Honestly, they could have just used an Asian person in the writing team. But Wizards did a charity, it feels like a couple weeks ago at this point. They did a charity and they tried to basically write a new adventure about orcs. And honestly, it was bad. We read through it in our Discord, and we talked about how harmful it was, and it was about how, you know, the orcs secretly had this, not secretly, they had this highly advanced culture that was linked to this one location, and a cataclysmic event of unknown deprived them of their culture, and they became the savage stereotypes that they are now in D&D. And a lot of discussion from that actually came from one person who was involved on the project tweeting how she was so proud that there was a sensitivity reader involved in it. And then the community basically like ate her alive on Twitter and basically was like, hey, you know, this is kind of, if there was a sensitivity reader, you would have actually labeled them as a sensitivity reader rather than like an editorial or developmental consultant on the project. And you should have actually let them just take the lead on the project. And after that, there was a lot of talk online about the importance of sensitivity reading. And we're kind of getting to this point when I know that I've been thinking about this. Steve, I think we need to do like a debrief podcast episode where we just talk about what they could have done right. And I think we have some time now. And this is kind of like how I want to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
While we have like Agatha here, and I know Agatha, you want to join us for more of these. I want to talk about what they could have done right, because honestly, we just hit the first chapter, and it's crazy to say that it took us 113 pages to find a section of the book that we thought was passable. Like we don't think it's amazing. We're like, oh, this is useful. We got some cool ideas from it. And honestly, that's good enough for me for a TTRPG product. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, like, how did it take so long for us to find something that was actually of value? As an Asian TTRPG creator and as an Asian TTRPG fan, how did it take so long, and where did they go wrong?
Sidebar: I wouldn't call this passable. If I was the sensitivity reader on this one, I would highly recommend not publishing it as it is right now. For a lot of the issues we've talked about, yes, it occurs in 10%, less than 10% of like the actual text here, but that's enough to be like, no, go back, and highly recommend you fix that for these reasons. But to your point, there's a lot of good here. A lot of stuff that I think we agree that like we could use in our own games, like the ideas.
Mm-hmm. I want to get point of clarification from a chat. Dan, in the chat who works for Wizards, pointed out that the Orc charity module is technically not canon in D&D because it wasn't done internally by Wizards. It was a DM's Guild Adept product. So just wanted to point that out. That is worth noting. But another point on that product, and I think that kind of relates to what we're talking about here in Oriental Adventures, not to like kill the vibe, is that product was almost entirely an entirely white team.
Right.
And we saw that with Oriental Adventures. I mean, there's even a consultant on this book and materials that they reference and treat as fact in this book that were written by a white man who took on an Asian name and who was widely considered a fraud. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh shoot. Yeah. There's basically the entire ninja section of the book. They consulted like the work of Ashita Kim, who a lot of people think is like a ninjutsu fraudster. His real name, I'm looking up his real name because I forget his real name. His real name is Radford Davis. And if you just look up Ashita Kim, like his website is garbage, but also just like widely considered a fraudster. And we talked about that in the martial arts episode. But the one thing that I think they could have done better on this is they could have actually had Asian people write this book. And I had a really good conversation at Big Bad Con with somebody at Wizards. I don't want to name just in case, but somebody at Wizards, and we were talking about, well, like, what could Wizards do to basically fix what this is. Like, fix Oriental Adventures, do a new thing. And they asked me, and I was like, you know what you should do? They should basically just, like, Kara-Tur can't exist as it is. Like, everything's got to be renamed, and you know, you need to bring on an entirely Asian team to design this. You need to make sure that, you know, when you're designing this Asian world, if you want it to mirror a historical reality like they have done in this book, you need to bring in experts.
Can I'm gonna insert myself in here.
Yeah, go.
I would love a D&D module where Kara-Tur is actually a colonial expression of like what they think Orientalism is, and actually within the world it is criticized for how harmful it is and how incorrect it is, and just like people within the like diegetically understand that everything Kara-Tur stands for is basically harmful and wrong.
Who do you think that like the entire understanding of Kara-Tur is an entirely Western thing, and the people that are like, what the hell's Kara-Tur? This is blank.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool, because as we know, the games that we design, the games that we play are a mirror of like the life that we live and the experience that we have.
Yeah.
That would be very fascinating.
It would be. Or they should just, honestly, they should just do what, Marvel and DC do all the time, and just have some sort of story event, basically destroy the world, and it starts again. Retcon everything. That's what they do in the comic book.
How wonderful would that be if Wizards was like, you know what? We can't salvage this.
Boom!
It was destroyed. Let's go ahead and like redo this one.
Let's just do a Marvel crossover. Or you know what? Let's just have a purple giant with a gold gauntlet, and it's just called the Gauntlet of Undoing. Called the Gauntlet of Undoing. There's a big event, and this purple giant with the Gauntlet of Undoing claps his hands instead of snapping his fingers. I don't want us to get sued. Claps his hands, and then everything is undone, and we have this whole new world. I think we should do that. Or honestly, we could just sit down and I think we should sit down with a whole bunch of other creators and just do another series where we basically reimagine the Forgotten Realms. Because I would love us to do this with Graham, POC Gamer, and do a big Asians Represent, Asians Read crossover with Lore Diver.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool. But honestly, I wish they hadn't mentioned like the show Lung or Kara-Tur in any of the 5th edition's book, in any of the 5th edition's book, because they're mentioned in 5th edition in passing. They're mentioned in like the sword. They're mentioned in, I think they're mentioned in Sword Coast, and I know for sure they're mentioned in the Player's Handbook in the human section, and a lot of the other Asian cultures. There's a culture called the Mulan.
I believe either the Mulan or the Kara-Tur people are mentioned in the DM, like Dungeon Master's Guide, under the honor section under variant rules. I have to double check.
Yes, they are, because I tweeted that. They are mentioned in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and they're mentioned in the Player's Handbook. And I don't know, it's like, if they hadn't mentioned that, then they could have just been like, "Hey, new world, new canon." But now it's in there, and the old guard's going to be like, "Well, whatever happened to Kara-Tur? That was a perfectly fine Asia," and that kind of sucks. That kind of sucks.
I'm still like thinking about, Steve, what you said about this post-colonial take on the Oriental Adventures paradigm, and I'm like so into it.
I will also give it more thought, because it was literally a brainchild of like us coming together and like sharing our thoughts and our feelings, which, hey, make spaces for people of color, Black, Indigenous, mixed race people to like talk about this kind of stuff, because you get like really cool ideas like this. But yeah, this like post-colonial, like Kara-Tur represented like how colonialism lensed Asian cultures, and then diegetically show that Asian people fucking hate it, and here's why, and allow players the freedom to address it in whatever way that is meaningful to them.
Yeah, I'm like, now I'm just thinking about like, oh, it'd be so fascinating if like if the adventure module is like about people in this place called Kara-Tur. They call it something different, obviously, but like, and them interacting with wherever else everyone else comes from, and then like dealing with what they've internalized. So like some things, like, so it would be interesting if there are like two factions, and one of them is very much against all of these things, and the other one has like taken some of it and like internalized some of it. I think that would be really fascinating, and that's the conflict that kind of starts the module, I guess, adventure.
I don't know where your mind's at, but like I have a lot of like internalized racism that like as a game master, I could feel like I could really express within this like reimagined Kara-Tur. And I feel like as a game master working with my players who obviously I trust and I love, I could really like vet out some like really cool stories. And like that makes me very excited.
My question though is, given the legacy of Kara-Tur, why even bother? Why not start from scratch?
The branding.
Hashtag
well,
branding.
I think you're not wrong, Daniel, in that there should be something new. Like, not a lot of this is redeemable, but I do think that that could be something that is kind of like healing for people to play, to kind of express the experience they had, right? Like encountering Oriental Adventures, kind of like what Steve said. Like, it's not necessarily that it's to further the brand of Kara-Tur or this whole thing, this Oriental Adventures, but it's more like a way to help people kind of process it, right? And then to like be able to talk about it. But there also should be something else.
Yeah. Sorry, there was a really funny comment. Somebody said, blame Volo for writing Oriental Adventures.
The
more I think about that character, the more I'm like, oh, that's kind of icky. One of the things that I think we should do, because this conversation is really good. Once we get through the monster chapter, which will be next Friday, the following Friday, treasured magic items. Oh, okay, we'll get through monsters quicker. Yes, we'll get through monsters quicker. We're actually going to get into an overview of Kara-Tur. We're actually going to do a whole episode on the world of Kara-Tur and the cultures of the world. Now, I have two amazing guests that I'm bringing in for this. One of them is actually who I met through our community and got to know through our Discord community. So if you've probably seen we have like a Discord bot thing going on. It should be in there. Now, one of the things that we're going to do is I'm going to bring in two guests, both archaeologists. So of the 4 people who are going to be on stream, 3 of them, including myself, are going to be archaeologists. One is Drew Kwan, who is in our chat is Ryzelk, is an archaeologist who lives in the United States. Another one is going to be Paulina Prstupa, who is an archaeologist I actually met in person at a conference in Vancouver. She's not in the TTRPG world. She's not in that community very much, but is a very talented archaeologist who talks about representation in comic books. And then, of course, there's me. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to look and read this overview of Kara-Tur from an archaeological perspective. So that's going to be the special episode we do that Friday. So I'm super excited for that because there is some really terrible stuff. And there is actually, and I'm looking at it right now, there's a whole section on playing a foreigner, playing a gaijin in Kara-Tur, which is awful. I'm excited.
Gosh.
It's good. I'm excited. It's going to be great. But that being said, we only have a couple minutes left before I know Steve's going to go play Dota. I'm going to probably eat a snack and maybe play some League.
I might install League of Legends just so I can dunk on it more.
So you're going to come and play League of Legends with us?
So I can dunk on it.
Can everybody who's in the chat tell Steve to join us and play League of Legends? Because right now we have a growing number of community members in our Discord who play League of Legends, and it is honestly the only reason why I play it. Because I stayed away from League of Legends because of its toxic community. But the people that I met on the Discord, Steve, look at the comments.
No, y'all talk about toxic community. But you play League of Legends, which has a systemized which systemizes toxicity. And I have so many game design
problems.
See, I don't know. I don't know about this because I've never played Dota. But when we play League, it's fun. It's such a great experience because we're helping each other out. Leona joined us and played her like very first like big multiplayer games with us, and it was a nice event. Like even though we lost some games, we had a fun time. And I think that's what's really important, and I think that's why I really love playing League. Is not because of the game, even though I think the game is great. It's because this is a time when our community gets to play together and talk about the things that's happening in the RPG world and in our lives. That's why I like it. They should
sponsor us.
I mean, Riot Games has its internal issues. I don't know if I want our brand to be associated with Riot Games.
That's another piece of it.
I also will never want our brand to be associated with Blizzard.
That's true.
Because fuck those guys.
Yeah, Dota's Valve now.
Yeah, Dota's Valve now. But I don't know if Valve's got its issues, but that's like one of the reasons why I won't go back to games like Overwatch or Hearthstone.
Yeah, same.
Or because of Blizzard's take on Hong Kong. Like I don't fuck with that.
Yep.
But I mean, Blackwatch Genji is such a cool character. So
I mean, I only like Blackwatch Genji because of you, Steve, because you cosplay Blackwatch Genji.
Yeah. I was so sad when like all the new like Overwatch content was coming out. I was like, no, I can't.
I'm not touching this. And
my principles.
Exactly.
So Daniel, in your book, you need to write down video game discussion, because we talk about like tabletop RPGs a lot. We talk about like movies and like other media. Have we ever talked about like video games? And, like
we should, because I want to talk about. Okay, you know what? If we think of a show, it's not going to be called Asians Feed, because I feel like I'm being attacked for my in-game performance, but I'll have it known I played really well last night. Like,
call it Asians Mid.
Asians Mid?
Yeah.
No, because because I know Mahar is going to be like, yeah, but Daniel's a bottom.
I don't know what you guys are saying.
Talk about
You're
League.
Saying words.
We're talking about League. But we will do a video game discussion. I think.
Well, you see, Agatha, a bottom is when.
No, continue, Steve.
I would love to, but I don't want to get our Twitch channel like reported. So, I got thoughts on bottoms and switches and all that kind of stuff.
Well, let's talk about video games. Let's add a new show to what we do. Because I have some thoughts on representation in video games. I've talked about it before. I've talked about Rainbow Six Siege on how I fucking hate its community. But I love like the game design, and I love the inclusion of Asian characters, and I love how the Chinese character wears cargo shorts. That's right.
Agatha, have you been part of this conversation?
I've heard Daniel talk about it before, but about
his terrible choices. Yeah, we have talked about that before.
Listen. But anyways, like we should talk about that. I've actually been actively avoiding Rainbow Six Siege only because like I can't play that. I can't play a game where you play as like highly militarized cops going around and shooting people. Like I can't do that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like I can't do that. But that game does have some really good Asian representation. So Steve, if you want to talk about like Asian themes in video games,
I want to talk about Asian video games.
And Asian video games, I could do that. Like I actually have a friend of mine, Osama Dorius, works at Warner Bros. Montreal as a designer, and talks about portrayals of Islam in games. So. Yeah, so it's really cool. So we should do that. If you have any ideas for what we should call this stream or this show, or what we should play or whatever, let us know. I know Agatha and I tried to do something like this, like before we really started doing Twitch.
Yeah.
So we should go back to it. Like, do you want us to play through Jade Empire on this channel? Do you want us to, try out games like that and hear our take? Like, let us know.
Do you want us to play horror games? Because I know
I played some. Like I played World of Horror on our channel. But we'll time is limited, so we'll figure out Asians Respawn / Asians
Just
respawn.
respawn.
That's not bad. That's not bad. We'll figure it out. Steve, can you throw a link to the Discord in our chat?
Absolutely. I think I can just use this Nightbot command.
Yeah, if you type
here.
in ! Discord, there we
Look
go.
at that.
That being said, like our stream, this is the end of our stream. Like Agatha, we went a little bit longer than usual, but we have a Discord server. It's pretty poppin'. We talk about issues in the TTRPG community. This is where we organize our video game stuff. It's where we share photos of our pets. My cat turned 18 today.
Oh.
Yeah, Marla's 18 years old.
Marla.
She real big.
She's thick.
Yeah.
She's thick. But it's where it's where we gather. It's where we vent. It's where we talk about, we share our lives. And I really like it. It's a safe space, and it's not just for Asian people. This is a Discord for everyone in our community. So please join us on our Discord. We're pretty active there. This is the part where I ask you two if you've got anything going on that you want to promote. Agatha, do you have anything going on that you want to promote?
No.
No, not at all.
I adopted 2 cats. They are taking over my life.
Oh.
Can you bring them on the camera? Can you get them?
No, they're in a different room right now because they're kittens, and I'm really scared of them biting all of the cords.
Okay, I respect that.
Can you send me a picture of your kittens?
Yes.
They're so cute.
Oh my gosh. They are.
They're so cute. Steve, do you have anything going on?
Yeah. So tomorrow I will be on a stream. I'm very excited for that. That particular stream is with another person you might have heard of, Daniel Kwan. We're going to be talking. We're going to be doing a live read of some Unbreakable RPG content, which is a 10 one-shot, all Asian created, Asian illustrated anthology. I'm very, very excited about it. Daniel and I happen to be writers in that too, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
But we're doing a live stream of that. But what I'm really excited is that, Daniel, you and I talked about that. We were going to do this because we were both we wanted to act on a lot of like anti-Blackness, Asian anti-Blackness. So we're going to use the stream as a charity stream to raise money so we can give it to our local Black Lives Matter chapter. But I'm also really excited because I know I've already talked to you about this, but I feel like we should take the first little bit here while we're not doing a live stream to really address what anti-Blackness means to us as Asians.
Already wrote something.
Oh, you wrote something. Wow, you're so professional. I
was going to send it to you after this to get your thoughts on it.
Gotcha. All I have is my one tweet where I talk about how racism has hit my family and the anti-Blackness that I was raised on, and how I had to do the effort, which a lot of people should behold themselves to like do that effort to like deconstruct their own anti-Blackness, address it, and then like make that part of you. Wear like armor, wield like a sword, and use that to like drive action, so we can fight injustice.
Yeah, exactly. We're doing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it. That was me just like kind of rambling because I have feelings.
Yeah, we're gonna spend some of that stream telling stories. We're going to be. I wrote a little bit of a preamble on, just like that model minority myth and how white supremacy basically taught the Asian community anti-Black racism. We're going to be talking about that. I have some stories from my own upbringing that I want to talk about. So we're going to be talking about, anti-Blackness in the Asian community. We're going to raise money for the Toronto chapter of Black Lives Matter. If you take a look at the donate button that is below the video on our Twitch channel, you'll be able to donate. Tomorrow we're going to be giving away 5 PDF copies of Unbreakable, and that's what Steve said. That's that anthology it's an own voice anthology written and illustrated by Asian creators. If you want a PDF, all you have to do is enter by chatting, by joining the chat, by joining the discussion. If you want to win one of the 5 hardcovers that are being donated to the stream, all you have to do is donate at least $10 and you'll be entered. Again, all of the money that we make from this are going to go to Black Lives Matter Toronto. Heck, if we raise $500, I'll cut off my hair. I'll cut off my little sprout.
Wow.
So like let's try to raise some money. Let's try to do some good. And in addition to that, we're, after we share some stories, after we do some discussion, we're actually going to read something positive. So instead of dunking on some really terrible TTRPG content about Asians, we're going to read through Unbreakable. And I've already got permission from one of the authors to read through their adventure. And it's an adventure inspired by the history of Vietnam. So it's going to be great. And Steve, we could talk about our adventures and how we designed ours and everything like that. So it's going to be,
I'm just really excited to go through like some Vietnamese, like.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm excited. I don't know anything, so I'm excited to learn about that.
Cool. Yeah. This is going to be good.
We're not gonna. So we have the author in our chat. We're not gonna dunk on it. We're gonna appreciate it. So this is going to be called Asians Read and Appreciate.
Can I also suggest that the 3+ criteria that Agatha has so kindly pointed out, that's more than 3. I feel like we can use that to frame up our thinking as well, because the idea that Asians are framed in like these things, I feel like we could absolutely take those ideas and show them how in this this adventure, how we've deconstructed that. And I'm very excited for that, actually.
That's a good idea. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about how that kind of what we wanted to do with our own designs. Because I know yours is a dungeon crawl, and mine is very, very much not what you would expect from me. It's like it's an entire adventure that you could do without rolling dice if you really wanted to. And it's an entire. I had some ideas for Dungeons and Asians. It's an entire adventure that can be done without combat. So it's very unlike me. So I'm excited for that, but that's going to be tomorrow at 1 p.m. EST. Agatha, you don't really have socials that people can follow you on, so I put the Asians Represent socials underneath your camera. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at AZNS Represent. We also have a YouTube channel where we put all of our Asians Read content. So if you are just joining us for the first time now and you want to watch how we went over the martial arts section, how we went over the honor section, how we went over the classes, the races, the intro, because the intro was god awful. You can head to youtube.com/AZNS Represent. All that stuff is there, alongside our first look at the art of the 3.5 Oriental Adventures Handbook, which was we're going to have to give that book another look through. Steve, where can people find you online? What are you doing? What do you got to share other than our charity stream tomorrow?
Charity stream is like the big thing, but of course I'm one of the authors. I'm a best-selling author of UnbreakableRPG.com, and I will always raise up that if you are an Asian creator and if you're an artist, you're a writer, you just want to get involved, please go to UnbreakableRPG.com. At the very bottom, there's a link where you can put in your contact information, and the project managers and what have you can get in contact with you. Even if you are brand new to RPG creation, design, what have you, so was I, and now I'm top selling. So
not top selling, best selling.
Best selling, yes, best selling. Get involved. Absolutely, your voice can be heard, and you can make a difference. So UnbreakableRPG.com.
And of course, you could follow Steve at DEEM Steve on Twitter. Steve's got some great hot takes. You know what? Just like it's a pleasure, Steve, every Friday getting to chat with you and some amazing guests about just god awful TTRPG material. It's amazing. Agatha, I'm so glad that you were able to join us, and I can't wait to have you on for future ones, because like honestly, your hot takes are so good.
Thanks for having me.
They're so good, and this is why you're my co-host on the podcast. So for those of you who are new to us because of this stream, because of our YouTube channel, we have a podcast. We've made I think almost 50 episodes of the podcast. It's called Asians Represent. You can find it on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. We've done a couple actual plays. We have a D&D actual play called Dungeons and Asians. That's the best title we could have we thought of. It was a lot of work. But we have Dungeons and Asians. We have 7 episodes up right now, and we're talking about doing some more. You could find me on social media at Daniel H. Kwan, pretty much everywhere. My website's danielhkwan.com. I actually recently started something on my Patreon, patreon.com/Daniel H. Kwan, where I'm actually posting Chinese OSR monsters that I'm writing. So I'm writing about Chinese monsters, and with the intention of eventually publishing it as an OSR collection. I published one actually this morning, the Taotia from like the Shanghai